Welcome into Seattle Seahawks today. I am your host, Tom Downey. We're going to preview the Seahawks taking on the LA Rams today in a very critical NFC West matchup. Now, the Seahawks have the better record, but they are the team, of course, going on the road in this one. They're coming off of a rough loss, and maybe it's a surprise, maybe it's not, but the Seahawks right now are a 1-point underdog in this game. The over-under right now is set at 55.5. The favorite has kind of, that line I should say for the Rams has moved all over the place. It actually briefly opened as like a 1.5 point favorite, then it dipped down to an even money game, back up to 1.5, and now back to 1 point favorites for the Rams. So before we dive in too far here, just let me know who you got. S for the Seahawks, R for the Rams, of course, is up on our Seattle Seahawks Today YouTube channel. So I figure everyone's going to type in S. I'll break down my prediction later on, but I'm also feeling pretty confident about Seattle in this one. In fact, even with the Seahawks coming off of a loss, we're bringing back our bet cover guarantee. So here's how you can get in on this. Head over to chatsports.com/bet and use the promo code that you see on your screen. It's Seahawks125. If you bet on the Seahawks to cover against the Rams and they don't cover, hey, I will cover your bet loss up to $50. If you put down $30 on them to cover, they don't do it, it's okay. Just email us, Seahawks@chatsports.com, and we'll reimburse you up to $50. So again, once you sign up, deposit, place your bet, etc., email us, Seahawks@chatsports.com. $100 deposit, by the way, gets you that 125% deposit bonus, so you should be using that one there as well. Email us, Seahawks@chatsports.com. I did mention the Seahawks coming off of a couple rough games. The bad loss against the Bills I thought was their worst showing by a wide margin this season. Big win over the Niners. Again, that game was not as close as the score might otherwise indicate. A disappointing loss in overtime to the Arizona Cardinals, but they've been really good this year. The Rams, by the way, have also dropped 2 of their last 3. The Dolphins, a game in which they just turned them over way too much. An easy win over the Bears, and a loss against the Niners team that at the time was a little bit healthier than what we've seen as of late. And then they beat up on a couple bad NFC East teams. So we asked you earlier who was going to win. Now take it one step further. Predict the score of this game. I will make this the pinned comment on today's video. So if you get the ad break here on YouTube, scroll on down, get your votes in, predict the score, and who wins, and don't forget the team that actually wins of Seahawks against the Rams. I did want to briefly discuss quarterbacks before diving into some injury notes here around Seattle. One of these quarterbacks is awesome. The other is Jared Goof, as I like to call him. Russell Wilson remains in the MVP, consideration, contention, the race, whatever word you want to use there. The third down stuff is a bit of a problem, especially as of late for Russ, but he's got 28 touchdown passes. It's insane. He's been so good this year. Jared Goff, when there's pressure, he tends to wilt really badly. And the Seahawks coming off a big sack game against the Bills, I feel better about that one. All right, injuries starting on the offensive side of the football. Chris Carson, Carlos Hyde at running back, and Mike Iupati at offensive guard. We will see if Carson and Hyde are able to play this week. I'm feeling optimistic, and maybe I shouldn't be, that Carson is able to go this week. Maybe that's just me speaking as a Chris Carson fantasy owner, but I want to get him back out there. I think it'd be a nice addition to the Seahawks team, who've shown they can survive without him, but, he does help, and he's a better player than Travis Homer or DJ Dallas. All right, offensive line. Look, Jordan Simmons is filled in just fine for Mike Iupati. He's dealing with another back injury. He might not ever quite be the same. He's kind of dealt with that problem for a while now. Maybe he comes back this week. That really does remain to be seen. We'll know more about that as the week goes on. Now, if you guys want more Seahawks videos, well, then subscribe. Look, we've almost made our Seattle Seahawks Today channel a complete and full-time channel here at Chat Sports. We're giving you guys videos almost every single day. So if you haven't already, hit that big red button and subscribe. We'll, of course, have some reaction after this upcoming game as well. So if you haven't already, subscribe today to the fastest-growing YouTube channel in Chat Sports history. Let's talk defense now, beginning with the secondary. And golly, they are just super banged up right now. Ugo Amadi, DJ Reed play that safety corner hybrid. They're officially listed as a safety on NFL.com, but they play nickel corner. And then Quinton Dunbar, Shaquill Griffin are all banged up as well. We'll talk more about those guys, a couple of those guys in depth in a second. I also want to mention some defensive front seven guys. Benson Mayowa, maybe this is the week he comes back. The Seahawks didn't put him on IR when he first got hurt, which was an indication to me that they think he'd be back sooner than later, so we're at kind of that 3-week time frame. I'm going to bet he plays this week. Brian Monet, he might miss some time, and I think KJ Wright is going to be good to go. But I want to go back to that depth chart and discuss the secondary here. Quinton Dunbar's not right. Shaquill Griffin's been banged up. They've had playing a lot of Trey Flowers. Lyndon Stevens been getting some reps. I think DJ Reed will be able to play this week. Maybe Ugo Amadi comes back. We'll see who even starts at nickel if they're both able to play. Shaquill Griffin, the way Pete Carroll has made this sound is he's not overly optimistic at this point. I would hope he's able to return sooner than later. He's a good football player, and the defense misses him when he's not out there. Meanwhile, Quinton Dunbar, look, I'll give him credit. He has been trying to gut through this knee injury, but it is very clear, and we mentioned this more on yesterday's video, he'd not been the same guy since that knee problem really started to rear its ugly head. They pulled him against the Bills because he was just not right. Look at the production difference. I mean, the completion has gone up like 20%. The yards are up. The touchdowns have gone from 0 to 4, and the pass breakups from 4 to 1. He is clearly not the same guy that the Seahawks saw early in the year and the guy they got a steal for when they traded for him from the Washington football team. The defense continues to be a big problem here for the Seattle Seahawks. So what do you want to do? I asked this earlier in the week, and I'll ask it again. Do you want to fire Ken Norton? Type Y for yes or type in an N for no. Let me know what you guys are thinking in the comments section. Defensive line, I do want to make note here of Benson Mayowa. That's kind of the main guy who's been a bit banged up as of late for the Seattle Seahawks. Rasheem Green actually coming back off of IR, so that's a good sign for the Seahawks. I think they'll be okay when it comes to the defensive line position. Dunlap had a nice game. Jaron Reed had a breakout performance as well. That's a really good sign for Seattle. KJ Wright, he will have to be monitored this week. Pete Carroll, again, as I mentioned on Tuesday, made it seem like he was going to be good to go. I hope that's the case. He's had a really nice couple games really since week 2. He's kind of been, I think, in the midst of actually one of his best years ever. He and Bobby Wagner continue to form one of the best off-ball linebacker duos in the NFL. Now, as mentioned, this game carries some pretty significant implications for the NFC West. Seattle loses this game, they could drop from being the NFC West favorite to, hey, you know what? Maybe they end up having to fight for their lives to make not just the number 1 seed, but even get a home field game in the first round of the postseason. The NFC West odds, though, continue to favor Seattle, even with the Rams being favored this week. BetUS has Seattle at minus 300 to win the NFC West. Significantly high, and honestly, I'm a little surprised it's quite that high. The Rams at plus 385, the Cardinals at plus 475. Again, if you have questions on how to bet or to do the bet cover deal, you can email us, Seahawks@chatsports.com. Now, last week, Seattle had the number 1 seed in the NFC, at least for the time being. They've now dropped down to number 2. They lose a tiebreaker against the Saints, beat the Packers, though. And yet the Cardinals and Rams are both there lurking in the midst, not just for the NFC West, but get a top 3 or even number 1 seed because, well, you're not going to be able to out-tank the Eagles to get that 4th seed in the NFC. So will the Seahawks be able to kind of right the ship, get the defense figured out, and get that number 1 seed? Type 1 for yes or type in 2 for no. Let me know what you guys think in the comments section. All right, as promised, my prediction now here. Of course, if you guys haven't already, get yours in the comments section for me. The Seahawks and the Rams. The Rams are a 1-point favorite. It's an over-under of 55.5, but the Rams have had a very good defense this year. Is this a get-right game for Jared Goff in the same way that it was for Josh Allen? I'm not sure. I'm going to go with the Seahawks in this one. I'll have them winning 27-24. It'll probably be a weird football game because that's all the Seahawks actually do. So I've got Seattle winning 27-24. If you guys haven't already, get your score predictions in for me in the comments section.